We're back today with another top 5. At any moment throughout the video you find something interesting, click the thumbs up and feel free to subscribe. It helps the channel and supports more content that you want to see in the future. Now, let's cover the top 5 crimes that will never be solved. Number 5. Jack the Ripper. In 1888, 5 women fell victim to Jack the Ripper. The name was coined from a letter published at the time of the attacks. The bodies, when found, were unusually mutilated in a unique surgical manner that indicated the killer had substantial knowledge of human anatomy. During the time of the events, many letters were written and sent to the police service, taunting them in their inability to trace the murderer. Countless investigations were conducted over the 100 suspects that were named, which added to the chaotic event that led the general public to lose faith in their law enforcement's capability. As with any mystery, numerous theories about what actually happened have been produced over the past several decades. At the time, brothels were common in the eastern parts of London. Violence and crime were not a rare sight. A girl by the name of Emma Smith was beaten and killed by a group of 4 men, but this didn't point any arrows toward Jack the Ripper. His killings and murders were much more sociopathic, oftentimes removing organs from the victims in a careful, torturous, methodical way. In the fall of 1888, the Ripper went silent. Citizens demanded answers, but nobody had them. To this day, it's unlikely the case will ever be solved. Number 4. Death of Betty Shanks. In Australia, 1952, Betty Shanks was found dead, and the case remains one of the most notorious unsolved murders in Australian history. It is believed by a historian, Lyle Reed, that a police officer killed her in a motorcycle accident and quickly covered up his tracks. Suspiciously, law enforcement seemed to let the case drift away without allowing it to gain too much attention or traction. There are many facts that make Lyle Reed's case a strong one, but nothing inherently conclusive. It becomes much more suspicious when Reed's manuscript has been shot down by law enforcement many times, but never is given a reason why. They have given him quotes such as, "It's a conspiracy because if ever a murder was protected, it would be this one," which gives further affirmation that the police have something to hide. Interesting. To this day, the case remains unsolved and will likely remain that way forever. Number 3. The Men in Lead Masks. In 1966, a young man was flying a kite near the mountains of Brazil. What he would stumble upon next would change his life forever. While flying his kite, he walked through a large patch of tall weeds to see something he wouldn't erase from his memory for the rest of his life. 2 bodies lying next to one another, dead, wearing unusual sets of clothing with a suspicious note. They were dressed in suits, topped with waterproof coats. An empty water bottle and 2 towels were next to the bodies, both of them wearing lead masks over their eyes. A notebook next to one of the bodies added to the mystery. It read, 1630, be at agreed place. 1830, swallow capsules. After effect, protect metals, wait for mask signal. What could that mean? All that was ever found out about the case is that the 2 men stopped by a bar where they got water from, and the waitress said they both looked very nervous and kept checking their watches. To this day, over 60 years later, that's all we know about what happened to these men. This case is very likely to never be solved. Number 2. The Zodiac Murders. Here's a case that stands a chance. Investigators hope that a genealogy website will give them the information they need to track down the Zodiac killers after 50 years of hopelessness. The Zodiac killer has been definitively linked to 5 murders, but claims through taunting letters and messages that his murder count is closer to 30. The investigation teams have had ample amount of evidence, but improper handling caused the DNA results to be compromised and unusable. The Zodiac killer is so elusive that authorities have had direct conversations and encounters with him personally, but he's persuaded them every single time to let him go on a couple of different accounts. Many times, the descriptions that were given to the authorities have been inaccurate by witnesses. His arrogance continued to grow as he regularly sent articles of clothing of his victims in letters he would write to the authorities. He even began leaving clues and trails to help police track him down, but they've never been far from successful. If the DNA tests remain inconclusive, this case is sure is over and he will never be caught. Number 1. D.B. Cooper. D.B. Cooper was a risk taker, that's for sure. In 1971, a man hopped aboard a Flight 305 from Portland to Seattle, and then things got crazy. Upon hopping on board, he ordered himself an ice drink to perhaps take off the edge of what he was about to do. Shortly after the flight took off, he handed the stewardess a note which stated that he had a bomb in his briefcase and demanded that she sat with him. Of course, as you would too, she sat with him. He told her to give another note to the pilot where he demanded 4 parachutes and $200,000, all in $20 bills. Oddly specific. As the plane touched down in Seattle, his wish was granted. He then ordered a plane to take him immediately on a trip to Mexico City. In between Washington and Nevada, D.B. Cooper jumped out of the back of the plane with the parachute and the money. The plane landed safely in Mexico City, and D.B. Cooper's whereabouts remain a mystery until this day. Within 5 years, over 800 suspects have been screened and all but 24 were removed from the list. Some believe Cooper didn't survive the jump. He wasn't equipped for a jump, it was dark, the parachute he was using couldn't be steered, and it was nighttime above a largely wooded area. But even then, his body was never found, and likely never will be. What do you think? Do you think any of these 5 crimes will ever be solved? Let us know down below in the comments. Feel free to click that thumbs up and subscribe. It helps the channel and more content that you want to see in the future. See you in the next one.